we have reached the fourth and final stage in our zANDtTest method. So we have our two examples, question, hypotheses, we calculate the probability, and now we have to actually figure out what this all means. We have to interpret the significance. This goes right back to one of the very first videos in which we talked about the very concept of what a test of significance means. And it's this balance. I remember the coin game. On one side we have differences due to random variation are expected, and that's all this is, right? We have 15%, right, are 121 out of 710 was 17%. Well, is that 17 just due to expected normal random variation, or is it truly different? Right, the other side is that this is too improbable and that there is something different, something non-random going on here. For this first one, with a probability of 6.2, right, this goes back to the significance level. Do we have enough evidence to support this right side? Or this is our null hypothesis, really. In this case, whoops, wrong direction. In this case, with 6.2% chance, there is simply not enough evidence to support this side, and so the null hypothesis governs. Now, for this other side, this probability is incredibly small. The chance of the difference between these two samples is so small that I think there is plenty of evidence to support that there's something other than random variation going on here. And that's how we'll write it. Ultimately, step 4 is a written response. The probability for the null hypothesis, with the probability of the null hypothesis equal to 6.2%, there is insufficient evidence to reject the null hypothesis, even at the 5% significance level. A short way of writing this, the probability of the null hypothesis, is greater than 0.5. Therefore, I fail to reject the null hypothesis and conclude that at least 15% of the kids who take Prevnar will experience a loss of appetite as a side effect. All right, this goes right back to what is the question? We are answering the question. Right. For example B, the polio vaccine, we have with the probability for the null hypothesis equal to, and I don't even want to try to say all of this. I wrote it out in long form versus exponential form to just show how small that probability is. There is overwhelming evidence to reject the null hypothesis, even at the 0.1% significance level. Remember, our sort of standard significance levels are 5%, 1%. If you want to be particularly stringent, maybe 0.1%. This is way smaller than that. Therefore, I reject the null hypothesis in support of the alternate hypothesis and conclude that taking Dr. Salk's vaccine does reduce the chance of getting polio. Now, we do have to be a little bit careful about this, right? We answered the question, does the vaccine reduce the chance of getting polio? This probability doesn't tell you, how much less chance of getting polio, if you take the vaccine, right? This is just telling you what's the difference between the two samples. How much of a reduction it is, we actually, don't know yet. This isn't quite the answer or the calculations for that answer. This is just saying, is there a difference? So you do have to be a little bit careful about that.